me when you come out of the pits and the thing doesn't feel right, you're worrying about it. Cars are going by, your breathing is thrown off. Just maintenance.
So taking a watch, and Andy Wallace brings the lead car in, Dave. And it will be James Weaver hopping in. No pad for him. Apparently he's the tallest of the drivers on Team 16. No problems right now reported. Remember they put oil in, I'm sorry, I believe that might have been the 20 that put the oil in last time. So right now, no problems right now reported on the 16. And no problems, it looks like, with this driver change either. James tells me he's going to do 2 stints.
Well, the car seems to be working flawlessly. Everything seems to be fine. Weaver, one of the best in the business. Dropping down off the jacks, he accelerates out. And, you know, they made some changes to their strategy.
Dave's Mike.
And they even took it to the technical level. Because I understand, I don't know if they did it with a rev limiter or whatever, but they have found a way to govern the car so that they run 500 to 1,000 revs less than they were doing previously. There is your leader in the American GT division, number 11, Hamilton Safe Camaro. Once again, Kenny Buff, Doug Mills, Dick Greer, Simon Gregg, the drivers listed in that car. And they have had a pretty good run with the problems that number 44 machine has. They've got a pretty comfortable lead. They're now 38th overall. The number 44 car is a number of laps back, but that number 44 car, he almost ran wide.
Boy, he did.
Coming through there.
Simon Gregg, of course, in that car, part of the time, is the son of the great Peter Gregg, who won so often here. Here goes the brake pad change. Let's time this thing. Let's see. Calvin's there. Calvin?
Yes, I am. The team goes to work right now. As you said, Sam, we'll put a watch on it. They're about 10 seconds in. First thing they have to do is kind of get the clips off so they can then get this the brake pads in. They go with a pair of pliers. They'll pull the brake pads out, and then they'll use that special tool. That should go in next, and they'll try and get the pistons pushed back into the calipers. Then they'll go to work, I believe, and probably change the rotors. They're waiting for the other side. You have to be careful that both sides are working together out. Otherwise, it's possible if this guy tries to push the pistons out when the other guy doesn't have them held, you'll pop a piston on the other side, which is a major drama. So both guys need to be working at the same time. The guy on the left side is ready. He's waiting for PK over on the right front to get his tool in. They're looking at each other, give the nod, and now they go to work. Now, I spoke to Alan McNish. He heard about me talking about his wallet. He said, you need a pneumatic tool to get my wallet open and buy dinner for everyone. And they've got the pistons pushed back in, give it the okay. Now they're going to go to work. They'll take the rotor off next, and this is going to take over a minute. Okay, the rotors are very hot. They slide out. New ones go on. Then what they'll do, they'll pop the new pads in. Pads are going in. Got to make sure you're getting the right way around, otherwise you'll have metal to metal. Then they should be popping the pins back on. So meanwhile, the rest of the crew are working. They're looking in the back end of the car. They're clearing out the back side of the radiators, just really giving this thing a full service at this time. They expect to do this again at about the 16-hour mark, and as I mentioned, at about the 12-hour mark, they'll be going on to the rear brakes as well. Nose is coming off, and they're going into the radiator grill, I believe. Actually, they may be checking the fluid level as well. They're checking out the A-arms. And I'm not sure we have another problem with the suspension. They're actually wiggling the steering system, look for something possibly loose. I don't see anything too bad. It gives it the nod, gives it the okay. And I think they're looking at this service should be pretty much complete here any second. Nose is going back on. Just over a minute at this point, about a minute 10. Alan McNish is strapped in, body work is going on, so fresh brake pads, you've got to be a little careful when you get out, but Alan has a lot of experience in these type of situations, and I'm sure he's up to the task, and good stuff for the Ferrari team.
Certainly no, McNish is up to the task. Remember that amazing stint he put in earlier when he ran down the number 16 car and took the lead away quite a bit earlier.
Guys, a little quiz in the booth. Remember when Leitzinger came in, he handed the car off to, at that point, it was Andy Wallace. Andy went, and they took the tires off, and they checked the brakes, right? Well, look at all the rubber built up in here. When Andy went back out, he had a terrible vibration. Guess what happened? I'm giving you guys the guess here. they put the tire back in a different configuration, a different rotation, and just like wheel weights, it was out of balance. And Andy drove that whole stint with a terrible vibration in the right front. He drove the entire stint that way. And now that he's handed the car off to James Weaver, it's all solved because this was the problem. All the rubber built up on the inside of the tire put back in a different location.
Now, Dave, I want you to know we all had the answer. You jumped in so quick we couldn't answer it.
I paused. I gave a TV pause there, Greg. You have to be a little faster next time.
All right. That is amazing. I mean, just look at the junk that builds up inside those rims. Obviously, that's a serious amount of weight compared to the weight of those rims. That's got to affect versus the big Ford V8s.
There's trouble.
He's got a problem.
Yeah,
the right rear corner.
The wheel came right off the car, I believe, just as you were talking about it. After all that elaborate checking over the car, they failed to get the right rear wheel on. This is probably the end of the road, possibly, for the Ferrari. Incredible irony following that long check where they just went over everything as carefully as they could.
Very smart by McNish. You just straight line that whole chicane, just trying to keep the momentum up enough to make it down into the pits. Team's getting ready. Let's go back and take a look at what happened here.
Watch this. It looks like the shadow of a wheel more than a wheel. I tried to believe. Oh, look at that. Incredible. What, David, what went through his mind? Oh, boy.
I've actually seen a couple of those.
It's miraculous that the wheels stayed.
Look how close the wheel stays to the wall. It's absolutely perfect.
That's great for all of the pursuers. There's a good look at McNish. Let's go down to Calvin Fish. Cal?
Well, just to give you an update, and Alan McNish brings the car in. Hopefully he's going to come for a start. But when PK went to work on the right front, he had a problem with one nut, and he took one off his belt. They always keep tapes of their waist belt in case they have a problem there. And he had to put a fresh nut on. So I'm not sure whether it was actually stripped. But there's... it looks like a fair bit of damage to this front hub, and this is going to take a lengthy period of time to get this one fixed. The nose has come up a little bit. They're going to get that off and out of the way and examine the damage there. Calvin? Just trying to get a look. Yes, Greg?
Quick question for you. After they'd done the brake change, they put the wheels on. Then they took that on the nose off and were starting to move around. Maybe did McNish maybe sense something that maybe could have been that very problem?
Well, I'm not sure. They're going back to work on the pad area of the brakes again. But what I was saying, Greg, is that they had a problem trying to get that right front tightened up. Okay. And then he went to his belt. He put a fresh nut on there. But they're exploding all the brake system right now to try and see what's going on. But this right brake is completely seized up. It's kind of cockeyed on the car right now. And this is going to take them a lengthy period of time. And this is really too bad because they were in the thick of the battle with the 16 car, and this is going to take them out of the action for now.
This will have dramatic effects on the overall positioning here, obviously.
Well, of course, this is the sort of thing where it's not that bad, but the trouble is it's going to lose you 2, 3, 4, 5 laps, and suddenly you're out of the picture. And you could come back with a race of this length because the 16 car could run into a problem as well later on. But, I mean, you certainly don't want to count on it.
And the number 31 GT leading car is in, Dave.
Lucas Luer is going to hop out. Remember, he had that spin coming off of pit road. Randy Popes will hop in. And I asked Randy how he was going to avoid the same fate. He said you just got to gingerly take it down. Remember, pit road speed is 65 miles an hour, but you got to take that corner that Randy called almost kind of a kink at 40 or under. So it really is a change. And, of course, you pick up all the water here on pit road. And while I'm at it, let me give you a quick weather update. For the last hour, we've been getting drizzle on and off. So pit road has stayed damp while the racing line has stayed, very clean on the track. So there is cause for caution out here. There has been some drizzle around the Speedway.
Now, we're watching right here one of the vets going by, the number 54, that blue and silver BMW. That's the car that's second in GT right now. It's on the same lap, but a minute 8 back as of that last stop. And it's about a half lap at this stage. However, that was the last time by timing and scoring, so the 31 car has now been stationary for a bit. And we're going to watch and see just where that number 54 car slots through, Sam, is Alan McNish. And Calvin, what's happening?
Well, I'm looking at what they're doing here, Greg, and I think what may have happened, I'm not saying this is the case, but hypothetically, if that rotor wasn't on straight, and then they tightened the wheel nut up onto that, and then the rotor straightens out, it would then loosen the wheel that up and then ultimately come off and allow the wheel to come off as well. And that's the only thing I can think, because I don't see anything else wrong. So if the rotor wasn't on straight, they tightened the wheel up against it, and then it loosened everything up once he hit the brakes for that chicane.
Back to Daytona, and it's been a fraught event for the Ferrari team. Very fast. Alan McNish earlier in the event running down the number 16 car for the lead.
Yes, I am.
But they came in for a pit stop. Going to take a look at the brakes. Got the brakes done, but then the right front tire came off. McNish, hand in the air, knew something was wrong immediately, obviously. Managed to get it down into the pits without too bad a damage. And some stellar work by that Risi Competizione team as McNish back on track. And obviously he's going to be a little bit nervous and leery, I would think, the first couple of laps here. Make sure everything is, in fact, okay with that right front corner. But he has dropped to third. Sam, you...
Whoa,
he's off. Something happened again. Let's see.
Boy, oh boy.
Wheels on. But something happened there.
It's turning, too. What a nightmare this has turned out to be. What a boon to the Dyson team. This was their only real competition at this point in the race.
Dave was talking, Sam, about there's been a drizzle that's continued.
Yeah, I think it's cold tires just caught him out on that kick.
Well, maybe that's it.
I think it probably was.
Something, and I mean, he was probably so busy worrying about the car, you know, that maybe he didn't think enough about the road.
He's putting the brakes on right here, and if anything's going to go wrong, this is where it's going to do it, but I wonder, because he got...
Let's go back and look at it here.
Well, he loses it in the dark there in an area where it's... It does have that look, doesn't it? Just the sort of the slide off.
Yeah, I think so.
That was over the key,
wasn't it? Yeah.
Just, you know, the wheel continues to turn right there, the right front. Here he is, another... Boy, they're getting all of this stuff. Brilliant coverage of this event, I gotta say. We haven't missed a thing.
Almost looks to me like he went maybe an upshift and the back end just broke loose as he was heading toward the kink, because the kink's up there with.
The right front, I tell you what, I think that guy in front of him just pulled him off, and he was going to go down the inside, made a decision to change, put the brakes on, and locked up that right front. It almost looked like the right front was up in the air, but it looks fine now.
He has officially dropped back to third overall now behind the two Dyson cars, so this has been very costly.
Well, he's back up to speed, Calvin, but boy, what a couple of laps.
Yeah, it's a fourth time down here. I spoke to PK, who's one of the best in the business. I mean, he's been around the block several times. And he said, I went to put that first nut on. He said, it didn't quite feel right. So he said, I took it back off, had a fresh nut, put it on, and tightened up perfectly. He did say that there's some credence to the fact if the rotor wasn't completely straight ahead, he tightened the wheel nut up, that could have happened. But he said, I'm unsure. We're just going to wait and see if we have another problem.
Has Alan radioed in at all about what just happened with his off?
I haven't heard yet, Greg. I'll check on it with the team and try and get back to you, mate.
All right, I mean, it certainly seems to be working nicely right now.
Went to the kink fine that time, didn't they? I think that car threw him off, and he just slid off on the surface.
Well, he is back out, and as we said, the car seems to be working very strong right now as he comes back up onto the banking.
Now, Manish had that brilliant session earlier on where he wound in the leader and whistled by right under the booth here and drew away at a tremendous rate. So we'll just see if he can put another stint like that together, because he needs to now. They've dropped to third spot.
Happened to the Dyson team, and so that's something that you just have to keep focused, as you said. Keep heading toward that checkered flag and hope it comes back to you. We'll be back to you in a minute. Just lay out for a minute, bring up the audio, and enjoy a ride around Daytona with Dale when he makes a couple of right-hand turns.
We did the hunt.
say, I wonder how unusual it feels to him to be flat out in a big V8 Chevy heading down into NASCAR 3, suddenly go down to the gearbox and take a hard left into the infield. They've been serious about this, but this team is also having a great time.
They're very fun to drive.
It's really fun and exciting.
This is fun. This is enjoyable.
It's also going to be fun.
So it's been a lot of fun.
We've been teamed up with Andy Pilgrim, who's one of the premier drivers for the Corvette team. And
It's such a great team effort.
Gary Claudio called me and said that we think we're going to be able to put something together with Dale Earnhardt and Dale Jr.
I've always wanted to run this one.
For a second, I thought about it and said, that'll be just fine. Thanks a lot.
Well, I'm a rookie, really. I am, and Dale Jr. is too.
They came to me and basically said, look, we're neophytes in this.
we're very happy to be teamed up with Andy.
Basically said, look, help us out as best you can.
We're up a lot against a great competition.
Assume nothing.
Well, I know the big part of it very well, but this part through the infield, I've just slept in.
Tell us whatever you think we need to know.
And I need all the help I can get.
The part that they can do, you know, pretty much with their eyes closed is get the car around the racetrack.
Of course, Andy Pilgrim has been super at making it all happen for me and Dale Jr. too.
Dale keeps pounding on me. He says, don't assume anything.
In Winston Cup, you know, you run hard as you can for 4 hours and it's over with.
They can drive the cars. What they know is that they're lacking the driver change bits, the traffic, using the mirrors, which they haven't been able, you know, needed to do in Winston Cup.
Me and the car had to kind of sit down and get along and hash some things out and me get comfortable with it.
I've had the funniest emails and you know, it's like, Andy, we've followed your career for a long time, and could you please send us a signed autograph? And by the way, could you get an autograph of Dale and Dale Jr.?
You know, hopefully we do well enough we don't get teased too much after it's over with.
Here we are. Maybe we can win and or at least get a Rolex out of it or something, you know.
It should be pretty enjoyable. We'll see how it goes.
Question here. Listen to the name from this, Intimidator 667. You wonder who he may be a fan of. But he asks, how did they run before there were lights? And were there a lot more crashes? Headlights, I mean, that's what they used here, obviously. And no, there weren't that many more crashes. I mean,
Well, there may have been more crashes, but we didn't see them.
There you go, good.
We have an email from Mary Kuhn who asks, has A.J. Foyt ever won, and how many times? Well, the answer is coming up, and I think you will find it absolutely fascinating. Mr. Foyt has quite a history here at Daytona. Watch this. In 1983, Claude Ballolena, Bob Wallach, and A.J. Foyt won the 24 hours, and it was notable for an incident that occurred shortly after Foyt got into the car for the first time.
Bob, you've just driven one of the toughest races of your life, coming from about 15 laps down to 2 laps in the lead. How do you feel about a complete stranger to you getting in that car in this rain?
Well, I'm upset about it because he doesn't know the car, he doesn't know the rain, he doesn't know anything, and we have been working very hard because we had two turbos broken early on, and we were about 12 laps behind. Now we are 1 lap leading, and Mr. A.J. Foyt is driving for the PR. I'm upset about it.
Not only had Foyt never driven that particular car before, he hadn't even been in any sports car since he won Le Mans some 15 years earlier. However, Foyt went out and, in the rain, set the fastest lap of the race.
I knew nothing about the car. All I did was just kind of get in and go, and with them already made up the time they did, and they was leading the race. I sure didn't want to mess up their strategy of winning the race, and so I just tried to do the best I could.
Any plans of a second career in sports car racing?
No, maybe another 15 years.
A.J. would indeed continue driving sports cars. In fact, he and Wallach teamed up in 1985 to win both the 24 Hours of Daytona and the 12 Hours of Sebring. So, David, what do you think of that? Bob Wallach with no uncertain terms.
When they come out of those comments and you're on there on camera, it certainly does get your attention.
I wonder how many years after that Mr. Wallach was picking crow feathers out of his teeth. I mean, obviously he ended up teaming up with A.J. and they had a very storied and successful future running together. There's your race leader right now, and again, James Weaver continues to respond to the challenge thrown down by McNish. Every time McNish throws in a quick lap, Weaver responds, getting within a second or so. The action's on.
I know. I think we better get off his bandwagon in a hurry, lest we lose our jobs.
All right, you're persona non grata from now on, Randy. Whoa, big development here. The number 4 machine. That's the Schubot Duncan Dayton entry. And they had worked their way up after some problems back into the top 15 overall, having a good, better run, obviously, in the SRP division. Rick Sutherland helping along with John Burton. Schubot not feeling it all well, but having a moment for them to
Much throttle a little too soon.
Well, I'll tell you, that corner caught an amazing amount of people out.
Boy,
it must be unbelievable.
We could produce a montage of all the cars that have gone off on that turn. It would just about take from now to the end of the race to show it.
But if you look at it, I mean, we were talking, Dave mentioned this, in the pit lane, there's been just this intermittent little drizzle. It's kept it damp. I'm guessing down in the Rodriguez hairpin, you get just a smidge off line out there. There's got to be, well, you can see on the onboard here, just below that, that yellow line, it's much darker. If you're offline at all, it's damp. We have another car going around in spots of the track as well. I mean, offline, it looks like it's still plenty damp, diabolically damp.
See, I think it could be a smidge offline, but not a skosh.
Very well.
That's very slight difference there, but very keen.
Subtle, but crucial.
Yeah.
Do you think?
It's the number 40 machine that just went around there. That is the Mack Racing Porsche GT3.
Here we have a 911 GT3 RS. This is the 2001 model. It's about $200,000. And in comparison to the GT1 Racing Porsche, the primary difference is the GT3 RS is based very, very closely on the street car, the Porsche 911 Carrera. And it's modified in many ways to make it more of a race car. Starting out back here in the engine department, it's about a 3.5 liter. It's a flat 6 like Porsche 911s have been ever since 1964 when they first came out. Makes well over 400 horsepower. We've got a big wing on the car that is actually like an airplane wing but upside down, so it pushes the car down rather than lifting it up. Inside, none of the comfort and luxury of a standard street 911. This is a race car. It's got a full roll cage, which is gusseted and braced for strength, for safety for the driver, and also to make the 911 an even better, stronger platform for a race car. Driver seat only. It's got a racing dash that is tied into sensors that pick up everything the car does, from steering to braking to engine, everything. Up front, we see the standard windshield of a 911. The headlight shapes are the same, but we have special lights, very high intensity. We have a special air dam on the 911 GT3 RS to improve downforce. Basically, the method of this air dam is to act a little bit like a wing also and create a low pressure area underneath it, so it actually sucks the car down onto the racetrack. The 911 is extremely fast, partially because it's really efficient aerodynamically. You can see how clean it is. No sharp edges, very low coefficient of drag. On Daytona racetrack here, I think that our Westford Ho car will probably be running about 178 miles an hour, which is not bad for a little 3.5 liter engine. It's great fun to drive the car, and we rely in the races primarily not only on performance, but on Porsche's long-time reputation for great durability.
And Greg, there's lots of smoke coming out, and I'm not sure what it's from. They just had a major miscue in the pits as Gabriel Rosa brought the thing in. And remember, these are the defending GT champions. He skidded past his pit stall and nearly collided with me, I might add. And so I don't know if that's tire smoke right now, but they were also smoking badly when they came by the start-finish line last time, directly out the back. So I don't know what their problem is right now, but the defending race champions in jeopardy. It does smell like water, so there may be a radiator problem or something with it.
The story of James Weaver, who has just been absolutely phenomenal, the defending champion in this division from the inaugural year of the Grand Am Championship last year. He is, it was his 3rd consecutive pole this year for the Rolex 24. I mean, the guy is just owns this level of sports car racing, it would seem, certainly stateside here. Long affiliation with Rob Dyson, his team owner, and watching the time now. Oh, look at this. Weaver just, folks, uncorked a 144.2 1 minute 44.2 second lap around here, and that's faster at this stage than McNish has gone recently. He's got a 1:45.5, and maybe better still for Weaver. Take a look here at the number 44 Corvette from Amick Motorsports closing in on that American GT lead. See the smoke as he locked up a little bit after a pit stop to repair some damage to the car. But the real story, the number 12 Risi Ferrari, they came in, Alan McNish gets on board. They're doing what should have been a routine brake pad and rotor change. All looked good until right here. Watch the right front. There goes the tire up against the wall. They got it in. They lost a lot of time, but it was fixed, and apparently no severe problems. And the number 16, our race leader, is in. Weaver has brought the car in, and Dave, looks like they may be going after brakes.
Well, and they are going to do that, Greg, and they have shut the motor off. James stays in the car right now, and so as we talked earlier, they didn't make the change, but obviously they reasoned that the next time they came through that they would do so. They're going to take their time and do just the front now, it appears. And we will just let James get back on his way here very quickly, it looks like, for the Dyson crew.
Well, they have the time to do it. They, right now, by my count, have a 5-lap margin over the second-place car, the number 12 Ferrari.
I'm there.
And by the way, the number 20 team car to James Weaver's Dyson, Riley and Scott Ford has slipped to third after their pit stop. And so McNish, auguring around here fairly quickly, has moved up into second. Now, we get reports the number 20 car has a bit of a bulky gearbox, so Max Pappas, who was just in that car, was being very careful. And
I'll ask him.
Boy, there's a mechanic who's that's a pretty serious duty to go inverted for your team. Weaver, boy, that was an incredibly quick stop if indeed they did replace pads. He's back out.
Yep, we're here now.
Well, they certainly didn't change the rotors.
No. Weaver pumping them up right there, wasn't he, to make sure?
Yeah. Pads, but not rotors. Very quick. Boy. That's another nail in the Ferrari coffin, if that's all it took there.
Well, that's huge, isn't it? If they can get through, say, with it, that's going to be huge. And number 3, back in the pits, Dale Earnhardt has brought the Goodwrench vet down on pit lane. Looks like Andy Pilgrim will be taking over. Let's go down to Calvin Fish. Cal?
Dale hopped out in a hurry. Andy Pilgrim in the seat. Team goes to work. They're inspecting the front brake pads on this car as well. So when you get about halfway through, we're about 9, I think it's 9.5 hours into the race right now. This is the kind of thing that the teams are really looking at. But I think the vet are hoping that they can maybe squeak by without a pad change, and at least not more than once. So they don't want to be changing pads or rotors at this stage of the game. Now it's Andy Pilgrim behind the wheel. They're fixing him up with his drink bottle. Work has been completed. Andy should fire it up and take it on out. We'll try and get a word with Dale here shortly.
Dale intently watching as Andy heads back out in the car that he just did a serious stint in, and it's been a strong one as well. They're now up to 6th overall, and they are 3rd in GTS. It's their team car leading in the category, 4th. Then the Marcos GT 5th, and then the number 3 Corvette. So,
are you surprised they didn't change the nose and get the right headlight working?
Now maybe they just did not want to give up the time at this point. Obviously, trying to get they're right now. They're 3 laps. Check that. They're 2 laps adrift of the Marcos and 6 laps adrift of their teammate and leader, currently 4th overall, Ron Fellows et al. Sitting at that point now. Boy, they're going through a debrief, and I think that's our man Calvin who's trying to step in. Let's see if we can listen in. Cal?
Okay, he's just giving some information to the team here. Dale, how was it, mate? It's your second stint in the car. Looked like you're having a lot of fun out there tonight.
Yeah, I got against a Corvette and another car and cut the right front tire down, had a limp all the way around. We might have tore some duct work out of there to cool the brakes, so we'll just see how it goes.
What's this racing like? It's so different from what you're used to, Dale. It must be a big learning curve for you.
It is, but it's a lot of fun. The guys really helped me out a lot. I just try to get in the car and run good, steady laps and not get in trouble, and I got in trouble already.
Is it time to put that youngster in? It's getting late. Time to put the young boy in?
No, we're good.
All right, mate. Meanwhile, further down pit lane, I think Dave Burns with Max Pappas.
44, 45, but every time you hit traffic, you really hit big problem. But You know, it's a bit difficult out there. You know, I think we have a good car, but we cannot really push it hard because we have a gearbox problem.
Now, will third and fourth eventually fail, or will they hang in there the way you guys are driving it now?
Gearbox is running perfectly. It's just that, you know, we left it was okay. When I came back, no more second and third, you know, first gear. You can still use sometimes first gear, but it's not really what you want for the engine.
Certainly having a very strong run, 4th overall, leading in the GTS division. We welcome back Herb Fischel, executive.
What isn't a lot of boost, and then just then Sasha was running it well within the limits, and looks like something might have broke.
I almost stand, and afterwards it didn't pull at all. So I was, it was the, you know,
pedigree of that team, I think there's going to be a lot of
misfire.
Also, that
so I come to the pit,
smoke was such
and then they said go slow, and I
thought it might be a turbocharger.
Engine speeds dropped there with the oil pressure, so that then throttle back on, and oil pressure has risen. But then with continuing throttle and continuing rising revs, the engine speed, the oil pressure has dropped out, and this is only a matter of
GTS is 4th overall.
What's that? That's 25:31.
What to expect throughout the night?
About 3 seconds after the manifold pressure dropped out. See the oil pressure there? It's all running along, and there it's just starting to drop out there. And then within 3 seconds of that, things looks like it's probably seized. Yeah, I would say so.
It has been a very eventful race for a number of teams, certainly. Some of them still out there, but laps down. Some of them have been able to recover and come back. It's been fairly uneventful. Of course, we hate to jinx it, but with the number 16 entry of James Weaver and Butch Leitzinger, Andy Wallace, things have been going very well. Take a look now as we run through the entire field here in the upper left part of your screen. You can see the laps behind as we work our way down through the pack. Of course, we've got some battles within the classes. A good one continuing in GT between the number 31 Porsche of currently Randy Popst, and I believe now it is Boris Sedigan in the number 54 BMW. Good battle there. The story of the number 44 Amic Corvette coming back in the American GT in huge leaps and bounds is very compelling as well. And the SRP category, the SRP2 category, I should say, currently the number 22 machine has it pretty much solidly in its grasp. A couple of the other cars have had some incidents out there. And in GTS, we've been watching and enjoying what we've seen from not only the 2 Corvettes, but certainly, although we haven't seen a lot of it as of late, that wonderful Marcos car continues to run second in that category, 5th overall. But now look at what we're seeing here from James Weaver. Sam, this is dominance.
It is, and he richly deserves it because of his experience. Laps led 188 here today. As the race is still only a third old. I mean, Weaver's basically been in control of this thing from the very beginning, really. They menaced briefly by the Ferrari, but they have been just niggled by small problems, and it's really been Weaver pretty much all the way if you sum it up in one broad stroke.
Our idea from the very get-go was just to set a very comfortable pace that we felt that we could run, saving the gearbox. We ran 3rd and 6th most of the race, then the leaders started falling out, and I think all the other Lolas are about 30 laps behind, and I think with all the Lola teams, it wasn't a matter of if the gearboxes would break, it was a matter of when, and we're just setting our own pace, driving at our own pace, and, you know, just kind of waiting to see what happens. I mean, we're not even halfway through yet.
Kudzu looks like it really has some potential, though. They had some problems with the fire in the pits early on, but they're coming on gangbusters, currently running second at a lot quicker pace than you guys are willing to run.
Yeah, I mean, we can't maintain the pace that the Kudzu has. We also know that the Mazda has better reliability. They've run that car in this race 6 times. This is the first time this team has ever been here. The 21 car we just got on Saturday, and we just built the gearbox for the 22 car on Monday. So, you know, we're really against everything here. We just got to set a pace and hope we're there at 1 o'clock tomorrow.
Don't underestimate this team. They really scored a lot of success last year. They're looking good for victory here today, that's for sure.
Well, currently, Calvin, it's 9 laps separating the lead car, number 22 Archangel Motorsports machine, and that Spencer Grupp Hampton entry. But as you said, the lap times significantly quicker, and they are definitely starting to close up a little bit. Another close up here that's occurring is we're watching here. It is I believe that's still Alan McNish behind the wheel of the number 12 Ricci Competizione Ferrari. However, Nick Johnson and the number 20 Dyson machine, Sam, they've pulled themselves back up to only 13 seconds of drift, bad gearbox and all. And Nick Johnson, his first ever time driving for Dyson Motorsports in an event, and of course they throw him in at the deep end with a 24-hour race at Daytona, but this young guy's doing an absolutely stellar job.
Still the night. I mean, even if it's brighter, you know, it's your internal clock and all that kind of thing. And I mean, when it starts to be dawn at what is it, 7:11, and technically dawn comes, I mean, you're going to feel pretty tired. You're going to know you've gone through the night. That's for sure.
74 car running a good pace here now, but of course he's many, many, many laps down. A disappointment there, that the Judd engine car.
You know, David, wouldn't you say there's a strain to just on your eyes? I mean, at night, I mean, all right, the illumination is there, but so are the lights creating it. I mean, it's very tiring.
And of course, there's a lot of draft blowing around, and your eyes get ever so sore driving these long races.
You know, Calvin a little bit ago was talking about the SRP2 division. One of the cars that was favored to be very strong is this one, the number 48 Pillbeam entry from Aspen Knolls. And Dave Burns, they've had a fairly eventful evening.
To say the least, Greg, and you know, they came in just a moment ago. Bruno Lambert stayed in the car, and they took the entire front nose piece off and put on a spare one. And at first you really couldn't tell why, because there was no damage at all to the front of the nose piece. So I checked with the crew, and they said, well, we only had one headlight. They only had one headlight, and so they, you know, I looked to see if there was any damage, and they said, nah, a bulb just burned out. Can you believe it?
Well, sometimes it's just that simple, and it can be extremely costly. I mean, we've seen that in races before where the lights go away, and it can be an absolutely huge problem. We were talking about the night racing here, and for some drivers, I've been told that they like racing at night because all of the elements that give them the fear, the speed, the reference points kind of go away, and they can just focus and drive hard. Weaver seems to be doing just that.
The radiator, all the ducting on the front end, the team are pushing it back to the garage to try and effect repairs, but it looks like a lengthy one if they are able to fix it.
Well, it's a tough break. The team car currently runs 8th in class, and look at that, David. It looks almost like snow, doesn't it?
Rain coming down again, and of course rain at night. When it started raining earlier on, at least it was daylight when it started. When it starts raining at night, you just have no idea what's happening because you can't see the sky. So you really have no idea. Is it going to be big? Is it going to be bad? And all you can see are those spots on the windshield to get the old heart fluttering a bit.
Yeah, the temperature, it's dropped, but it's not dropping significantly. The guys in the open cockpit cars are going to appreciate that. Let's take a look now at our highlights from our 10th hour of competition here at the Rolex 24 with 14 to go. And there were certainly some moments. Scott Schubot's number 4 Creighton Motorsports entry having a loop out there. Schubot not feeling well, not able to drive right now. More problems for the Haverther Racing machine as they will apparently hold the radiator. Here's the number 20 car, wounded gearbox. Mac Pappas out. In goes Hurley Haywood. And look at Pappas. This is a very fit driver. He wasn't in for a long time. And he is tuckered. It is tough to drive that car right now. On the other side of the coin for Dyson Racing, a brilliant performance up front and a awfully fast brake change in the number 16 car. And that has continued to make the job of Alan McNish in that number 12 Ferrari very tough indeed. And then the number 17 RWS Motorsport Porsche, a spin. Cold tires have been really biting people.
And that's tough duty because that car is several hours back, and to come back out just as it starts to rain and look really tough out there and try to make up ground with your heart maybe not really in it, that's hard going.
Terribly hard to be super positive when when you're a couple of 3 hours behind.
I mean, we all have heard the stories and told the stories about how Daytona has been won from coming way back, but the odds against it are long.
Way back and there's way back.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, this is an absolutely brilliant story. They're having a very strong run. But now in this race so far, $130,000 plus have been raised in their per lap count. That right now, by the way, is Dave Gaylord out of Seattle driving that car. And what a great cause. Just raising money left and right for the Children's Hospital and the great cause that they carry on. Just a stellar job by that team, and what a great program. Now we're on board with our leader in the GT division.
division, the number 31 entry, Randy Popst and Mike Fitzgerald. A couple of other pretty good drivers in there, Lucas Luhr as well, and Christian Menzel. And Randy currently on board, and we've sung his praises already. And even though it kills us to mention him more because of visibility with a microphone, the guy is fast.
He's fast.
Don't pretty dry. The pit lane is the part that's wet. Pit lane and of course a very slow pit exit.
That's the number 60 PK Sport Porsche GT3R. Had a quick loop, and we get a report. There's the number 81 entry. That's one of the G&W Motorsport machines down in the pits. Darren Law, Matt Drendel, Dave Murray, and Court Wagner. Let's go down to Dave Burns. Dave, this car is a very quick car.
It is, Greg. I think it's running maybe 5th in class at this point. David Murray is sitting in the car, but they've been here for almost about 5 minutes now. They had the bonnet off on the back of the car, and they seem to be having some electrical problems. They had a battery up on the wall. They didn't do anything with that. They had an alternator up on the wall, perhaps going to change that, but they didn't do that either. And the crew's been so busy, I haven't even been able to ask one of them what is going on. They're going to go, now they're going to the right rear as well, as you can see. And Greg, jump in anytime.
Dave, I was just going to say, this is the car that last year produced the champion in this division. Of course, Darren Law and Mike Fitzgerald were the guys that had more wins than anybody else. So this is a car that, without problems, could have very much been a factor in this.
Well, and you look at the driver lineup, and I'm sorry, Greg, I was distracted. You may have been talking about that, but yeah, a lot of good drivers on this team.
He's good at everything. We'll be right back. Going the distance, that's what a 24-hour race is all about. Well, so far, in just a little over 10 hours, we could have gone from Daytona to Houston. That's 963 miles, and we're at 1,068 already into this event, so we could have gone to a western Houston suburb easily. Let's head down to the pits where Andrew Marriott is back joining us, and he's with a driver and somebody very involved with that Marcos program. Andrew?
Cole Reiser, your 5th place. What a fantastic performance. You're splitting the 2 Corvettes.
Yeah, well, we have a very good run. The car is quick. In the corners, a lot of traction. I think it's great out here, and we can compete with the Corvettes, which, we were strong and fast, but, that we could stay on the pace from the Corvettes is surprising to us.
Now, you've developed this car mostly yourself. You've worked with the Marcus car people, of course, in Wiltshire in England, but most of the work, the racing work, is done by you personally.
Yes, we built a car in Holland, in our workshop with all our mechanics, and we have a very good engine builder. So it took a while to get everything together, but, I think you can see the concept here, it's quick and hopefully reliable for 24 hours.
And what sort of budget are you operating on?
Well, about $5,000 US.
5,000 US dollars, and it's in 5th place.
And doing an incredible job. Of course, a lot of success by that team in European FIA racing, and it's great to see them on this side and doing incredibly well. And we've been talking about some of the great programming, the Endurance Grand Slam, that all the coverage we have on Speed Vision. But if you're a motorhead, there's probably a show you try and turn into whenever you can, and it is Dream Car Garage. And Tom Natchew, the host of that program, who's doing PA duty here at Daytona, and stopped by. Tom, that's a great show. First of all, welcome to the booth. And so right now, the Dyson team. This is where the team aspect of this all really comes together here. A lot of the glory goes to the drivers. However, it is the pit crew, the team, that now has to spring to life and get the job done. Meanwhile, Ron Fellows and his crew closing in on the top 3. The first round of the Endurance Racing Grand Slam on Speed Vision, the Rolex 24 at Daytona. You're looking at the number 66 Racers Group Team Seattle Children's Hospital car. They're in the pits, and this is why. And Sam, particularly when they get into the problems here, watch.
It looks as if right there he may have hit something with the nose of the car and maybe jarred loose one of the plexi pieces that cover the front lights.
And we have another problem here. We just found that's the number 47 Porsche, and that's a little bit more substantial, obviously.
A big problem.
Serious damage to the left front corner, if not more, of that car. That's the Evil Eye Racing Porsche, and that's currently Gary Schultheis, who's behind the wheel of that one. We've got just the backside of what happened on this one. We're going to show it to you. And
oh boy, he goes for quite a ride. This is scary. I don't want to watch it. Look at that across the wet grass. He doesn't slow up at all.
Well, that's
very unlucky.
That's coming from the front straightaway here. He almost made it back to the other side there.
And ran head on into a car coming around the other way.
Hey, could have done.
Yeah. Boy.
Still sitting on board. That's he's right by where those cars track out that you're talking about. So I think he's waiting to get a wrecker or somebody in front of him before he steps out of that car.
He may be a little bit dazed.
That could be too. That was a hit, and he is actually on the part of track where they do exit out onto the banking.
Yeah, and the debris from his car, right, David, is all over the place there.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody make it right across that grass.
No.
Maybe his throttle stuck or something, because he and of course, to exacerbate it, the grass is wet. So once he started sliding across it.
It actually almost picks up speed. Let's watch this in real time here, folks. Watch this.
Boy, that's bad.
That's a big hit.
And we are now full course yellow. We're full course yellow right now.
I worry that he's not okay in that car. I mean, doesn't his movement look... Let's hope he's fine.
Yeah, let's hope he's just talking on the radio and the like. This is our 6th full course caution. There is the double yellow right now. And we're going to, while we have a moment here, there's a gentleman we'd sure like to get a word from. He's standing by with Andrew Marriott. Andrew?
32 years ago, this man won this race in a Porsche 908. It's Vic Elford. Vic, have you got any memories of that great day?
Yes, indeed, Andy. In fact, it was 33 years ago. Really shows my age. One specific memory, right in the middle of the night, Maston Gregory here in the tri-oval lost his gearbox and spilled the oil all over the track, and Gerhard Mitter arrived in one of the Porsches, hit the wall, turned over, slid along upside down for goodness knows how long, and I arrived just afterwards, and there was just smoke and dust everywhere. I saw absolutely nothing. And from about the start line to halfway into turn 1, I literally could see nothing. I was just driving, holding the steering wheel straight, hoping I came out the other side. And I did come out the other side without hitting anything.
And went on to victory, but you're here, of course, working because you're coaching a driver called Milka Dono from Venezuela, a lady driver in the Chamberlain team. And you've got big plans for her.
Yes, she's only been racing for 2 years. And I've been with her ever since she started, and she's just really phenomenal. She just keeps making progress. She keeps getting better every time she gets in the car, no matter what car it is. She gets better and better. She said, Vic, after the very first race she did in Venezuela, she said, Vic, I want to go as near the top as you can take me, and I want you to take me there.
That's great, Vic, and it's super to see you here. Thank you.
Well, Vic Elford, one of the true legends of racing, certainly, and we're watching number 20 here, the Dyson car, as they continue to wrench away rather seriously on that gearbox. And
incidentally, that incident that Vic reported, I saw that, and it all happened at about 200 miles an hour. It was absolutely terrifying.
Well, of course, hadn't just about 2 weeks before that, he won the Monte Carlo rally driving a Porsche?
Yeah.
I mean, he's the only guy that's ever won the Monte Carlo rally in the Daytona 24 race.
Janek, who is way deep down in that cockpit trying to work on something down there. So both drivers out at this stage, taking some air blowing. I wonder if they're working on pedals or something along that line. They're blowing debris out of the radiator with the air hose. Let's check in with Dave.
Well, I'm going to see real quick. I'm going to check with James to see if he knows. James, why did they dive underneath the cockpit there?
We've got a fluid leak inside the cockpit, just dripping oil on the pedals. Not a major problem. So we're just taking advantage of the yellow to give it a bit of a service.
Now, you have a great nose here. What does it smell like? What kind of fluid?
We think it's just a very small leak from the power steering pump. So it's not a biggie. May take 10 seconds.
Okay, and you've just had a great stint. Any other trouble with the car?
No, we're just lolloping along, really. We've got a handy lead over the Fiat, so it's just a question of massaging the old girl on now.
Absolutely. Get the old girl to the finish. That was James Weaver. Now with his sister car, the 20, they are going to change the whole gearbox. And I did speak with Nick Johnson, who just hopped out. When he got the car from Max Pappas, it didn't have first or second, and Nick did have to hold it in third gear going around the track. So that was a very tough stint for him. They decided to go ahead and change the whole gearbox out on the 20 car.
0.12.
Gearbox going back on the number 20 car, trying to get everything aligned. Want to point out once again, Gary Schulte, the driver of that number 47 Porsche that had that big hit, out of the car. He's okay. Got out under his own power, so that's a good thing.
New rules designed to slow the cars down had no effect as Jackie Eakes set a new track record in leading a Ford GT40 sweep of the front row. Behind them were 4 Porsche 907 prototypes, along with an Alfa driven by Mario Andretti. Spicing up the competition was the Trans Am division, a race within a race, with the Chevy Camaro of Mark Donohue and the 2-car Shelby Mustang team led by Jerry Titus. Also in the field, running behind the Donohue Camaro, was the revolutionary Howmet Turbine, which hit the wall before it could ever show any of its potential. Although underpowered to the GT40s, Porsche sent out the Joe Siffert Hans Hermann 907 to push the Ford team, make them work hard for the victory. There you see our own David Hobbs driving the number 9 sister car to Eakes. By late afternoon, as the shadows grew long, the pole-sitting machine, driven at the time by Brian Redmond, retired due to transmission failure. Then during the early evening hours, the other GT40 would also drop out after running over debris and rupturing the fuel cell. That left the Porsches in the lead. But in the Trans Am division, Donohue's car had stopped and would drop out of contention as mechanics replaced both cylinder heads. Titus would take the Trans Am division victory. For the first time in 24-hour racing, Porsche had a chance at an overall win, despite an overnight crash that eliminated 2 of its entries, along with the Ferrari of Mast and Gregory. After being the bridesmaid for so many years to the likes of Ford, Ferrari, and Chaparral, Porsche had finally won its first 24-hour race, with Siffert and Hermann joining Rolf Stommelen, Jochen Neerposch, and Vic Elford in victory lane.
You're over there working on the emails, and we've got thousands of them lined up. And you're a geek. You're having a great time with it.
I am certifiably a geek, no question about it. And there have been a lot of great questions. It's clear, looking at this stuff tonight, there's a lot of new fans. I mean, obviously the presence of the Earnhardts in this race has brought a lot of new fans to Speed Division, a lot of new fans to sports car racing, and they're asking a lot of good questions. So it's been really very enlightening for me to look at this stuff, and great to see a lot of people are watching this.
And you're enjoying, I would take it, obviously answering as many of these as you can. It's nice to have that interaction with the viewer to let them know that we're obviously very much paying attention to what they're interested in.
Yeah, I mean, we're able to answer a few. We're able to scroll some of them across the bottom of the screen, and there's been a lot of positive, a lot of positive comments, and people sending emails in for their favorite teams and all their friends, and of course, we've been all answering the odd question as well. It's been great.
And, of course, right now you're watching one of those as we go. Let's Go Max Pappas from Laura Backus crawling underneath. I mean, this is great. We're really enjoying this. A couple of cars having some problems on track and getting that taken care of. That looks like one of the Banana Joe's entries from, that's the 37 car. Fastest in testing here at Daytona, and a certified front runner, obviously, as the racing was unfolding. So, well, with that, folks, we'd like to say thanks a lot. We're going to take a little bit of a break. Bob Varsha is going to be stepping back in and taking over for us here. Thanks a lot. I'll be back at 6 in the morning, and David and Sam will be back a little bit later than that.
A more appropriate time for that, because we are under yellow for the 7th time today. And here is why, as the number 47 Porsche came through the tri-oval at top speed, then got off onto that very, very sodden grass. And the result, as you can see, was a long skid across the grassy verge and hard into the concrete wall. That's the Evil Eye Racing Porsche GT3 RS. Gary Schultes was limped over to an ambulance and sent on his way. Off comes the Corvette safety car, and we are back in action. The race leader is the number 16 Dyson Racing Porsche, being driven by James Weaver. Alan DeCadenet, this is your first time to get a look down on the combined oval and road course here at Daytona International Speedway. Your thoughts on what you see?
It's surprisingly busy, isn't it? I mean, that's the great view we get up here, and the great thing about Daytona, you can see all of the action all of the time from up here, and that's really the brilliant thing. When you go to the other great 24-hour race at Le Mans, you have to wait sort of 4 minutes for your favorite car to come by every time, or whatever, 3 minutes 30 anyway. But this is great, because up here you can see everything, and here we are getting on for midnight, and it's like daylight out there. All those bright lights on makes it easier for the drivers, makes it easier for us. But of course, let's not forget, this race is not yet halfway over, nothing like.
There is the second place car in the overall and the sports racer prototype category, the marquee class for these open cockpit cars. That is the V12 333 SP Ferrari in the hands of second generation racer David.
Reporter, I used to write about a man called John Burton driving a Chevron. I just come down to pits to see if it's the same man. It is. He's driving with Duncan.
Ever a GT class car won. The Orica Vipers came from 21st to win. The farthest back on the starting grid a Rolex winner has ever come. And of course that victory came by just 31 seconds over the Corvette team in the closest finish in Rolex 24-hour history. On board with Buddy Lazier now in the number 74 Robinson Racing, Riley and Scott, the big Judd V10 behind his back. They are currently shown 14th overall and 5th in the Sports Racer Prototype class, or SRP. 5 classes in all in operation. There are the Sports Racer Prototype 2 class, a little less horsepower, lighter in weight, and less expensive to operate. Then the GT categories, GTS or Grand Touring Super, the heavy iron with some exotic machinery, Grand Touring dominated by Porsche and BMW, the biggest class, numerically speaking, in this race, and then the American GT class for 2-frame chassis, American iron. Buddy Lazier, of course, the reigning Indy Racing Northern Light Series champion and 1996 winner of the Indianapolis 500. If you were with us when we began our broadcast at 12:30 Eastern Time, we talked about diversity, how this race welcomes racers of all stripes from around the world. 80 cars started, more than 300 driver athletes from 21 countries and 23 states of the world.
And of course here they'll race in any conditions, including the wet. One of the few places you can see some good wet weather racing too.
You saw that 09 car off onto the grass with the left side tires. It also lacks the front clip and has for some time. Those are the defending champions in the Grand American Road Racing Association American GT category. They've had a very rough go of it. Currently 3rd in their class, 18 laps off the pace, running 40th on the racetrack. That's the spirit of Daytona Camaro for Craig Conway, Doug Goad, Rick McGarry and company. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll learn a little bit more about the IRL champion and his first foray in a decade in the Rolex 24. 123.04 miles per hour. If you prefer to have that in time, that's a 1-minute 44.1 second lap. Now, Buddy raced in the Rolex back in 1988. Though this year may be only his second attempt at picking up a checkered flag at Daytona International Speedway, this oval track driver is no stranger to road course racing.
Even though he's perhaps best known as the winner of the 1996 Indianapolis 500, Buddy Lazier, who's the defending champion of the oval-only Indy Racing Northern Light Series, started his career on road courses, driving SCCA Formula Fords and Formula Vs. Then, in 1988, came 6 wins in the championship in the American IndyCar Series. And in the early 90s, Buddy ran several races in the Kart FedEx Champ Car Tour. So road courses are nothing new to Lazier. For that matter, neither is the track here at Daytona.
I think I ran here maybe 2 or 3 times back in the IMSA days. And this is, I mean, this Grand Am Series, I think, is exciting. And it's a great way for me, being on ovals for 5 years, to kind of get my toes wet back on the, get the rust off my road racing gears. And it's an exciting team to be with.
One of Buddy's IRL victories came last year at Phoenix in a spectacular drive that saw him start last and finish first. That victory coming in a Riley and Scott chassis. Ironically, Lazier, who lives in Vail, Colorado, comes to Daytona to drive another Riley and Scott as a result of a mutual friend putting him together with Beaver Creek resident George Robinson.
Car's awesome car. I think the motor's going to be really powerful, and it looks like it'll live. I mean, I think 24 hours is so unique in that it is an endurance event, and there's only a few of them that are 24 hours in the world each year. You know, I am an oval track racer, but I also enjoy some road races, and I'm a huge Formula One fan, and I love the Formula One racing in Indianapolis. I mean, that's awesome. And so I get to come out and do some right turns, and it's just a neat event. And it's great for a race driver, I think. It's good for you, your foundation to spread yourself out a little bit. And certainly once the Indy Racing League season begins, I'm 100% focused on that. But I like the idea that I'm able to run this race in the Grand Am, and I'm able to run some IROC races this year. So I'll be able to to get to experience a couple different forms of racing, and they're all different and they're all neat in their own way.
If Buddy can co-drive to victory with the Robinson Racing Team, it wouldn't be the first time a Lazier has accomplished that feat at Daytona. His father Bob co-drove a Mazda RX-7 with Dennis Shaw and Amos Johnson to a class win here back in 1987 and again in '88.
In the afternoon, and this looks like it could be significant, and that could hold great significance for the outcome of this race. We'll be right back live. Currently in the hands of Johnny O'Connell from Flowery Branch, Georgia, running third overall after a long pit stop by the sister car to the 16, the number 20 Dyson Racing Riley and Scott Ford. They had some transmission problems. Long stop allowed this car to be the first GT car to move up onto a podium position. Once again, there's a long way to go. You see, we're just over 310 laps into the race for that particular team. A long way to go. Oh, we've got a big crash that looks like it's down in the chicane area. Driver waving to let everybody know that he's there. No, that's down coming off NASCAR turn 4, the fastest part of the racetrack, and he can actually drive that tub away. This is amazing. All four wheels still on the car and all in remarkably good shape, but all the bodywork is gone. Oh my gosh.
This is remarkable.
Isn't that something? Oh, it is in the chicane. It was off NASCAR turn 2 on the backstretch. And now he's actually going to drive the thing around. Okay, now this must be like taking the first step on the moon. You arrive in the pits. What do you tell the crew? I had a problem.
That's one of those pill beams.
Yep.
And you can see he's got two flat rear tires, no bodywork whatsoever. Definitely the walking wounded.
Something you don't see every day.
I need to get that bodywork out of the way too. If anybody hits that, it'll be that's probably Kevlar. That'll puncture a tire quicker than anything.
Well, that's a good point. Now we have a partial replay. See if we can see what happened. Well, it didn't look like he hit anything at that point. Surely he must have to jar all that bodywork loose, get the air under it, and completely strip the car of all of that Kevlar and carbon fiber. That must have been a moment when you see God. The field is bearing down at you at top speed.
Yeah, I think he's had a puncture which has probably thrown him sideways into the wall. He's clouted the nose and the tail, and that's just burst the body off, popped it off like a cork. Speaks well of the car, though, Bob. I mean, he hasn't actually done any serious damage to it, and he's obviously perfectly all right, which is the important thing.
Just trying to get an ID on the driver. You see the body work, definitely a pill beam, using, like most of the sports racer prototype 2 category cars, a Nissan V6 prepared in England. This gives us a great opportunity for pit stops as we are under our 8th caution of the day. Here comes the race leader, and you can see the rain is misting down heavier than ever. Butch Leitzinger climbs out. Meanwhile, down in the Ferrari pits, David Brabham stays in the car. Andrew Marriott.
Yeah, David Brabham is staying in the car. In fact, he's just come off the jacks and it accelerates. Lots and lots of wheel spin, blue tyre smoke, and David Brabham powers back into the race. These guys are still very much in the hunt.
Away goes the Ferrari with a scream of that V12. Meanwhile, the work continues on the 16 car. And do we have a problem here? Now remember, the 20 was in with gearbox problems. Off comes the bodywork. Are they reaching into the area of the shift linkage?
That looks like brakes to me.
Guy Hobbs is in that pit.
Well, going underneath the dashboard once again. They've had problems with the 16 car. What is happening is the power liquid or the fluid for the power steering is leaking, and it's leaking down onto the pedals for the drivers, and it's making it very slick and slippery for them to drive the car. Butch got out. Now he's trying to wipe his feet clean on the what is already a wet pit road. I need you to get back in. They're doing a regular tyre change. See if we can get a quick word. Butch, problem with the power fluid leaking on the pedals?
Yeah, it's dripping down onto the pedals, and you can't do any late braking at all because your foot just slips right off of it. So it's really more of a safety thing than anything. We need to get this fixed.
Now, James had that problem. He warned you about it. Obviously, that fluid, and with these slick shoes you guys wear, your foot must slip all the time. It must be very hard to get any kind of feeling.
I couldn't quite catch the end of that, but it makes it incredibly difficult because normally we can go in very late and just stand on the brake. Now, even every time you try to put any large amount of pressure on it, your foot slips right off of it. You can't, if you miss the downshifts also because of it. So it's very difficult.
Are they going to be able to fix the leak? Will they be able to fix the leak itself?
Yeah, they're changing the fitting right now, so the leak should be fixed.
And you're going to get back in?
Yeah.
Quite much. So Butch Heitzinger will get back in. Looks like they're going to put a new front nose on. This is probably also to help with that problem. A new front nose, maybe get some better lighting from that, because the other ones, as you can see, are probably pretty filthy dirty. They're also going to wet weather tires, which is interesting. I think they'll be the first ones to do that. And now the wet has actually, the rain has actually petered out a little bit, so I don't know if the wet weather is a good idea. We'll find out quickly when Butch rejoins. By the way, on the pill beam that went back to the garage area straight away, I had quick back up to the booth.
All right, thank you, Guy.
Speed Vision. And the 2001 season revs up with the Grand Slam of endurance racing. Live flag-to-flag coverage of the 24 hours of Daytona. Live 12 hours of Sebring. And 24 hours of Le Mans and the Petit Le Mans. Only on Speed Vision. Live coverage of the 12 hours of Sebring begins March 17th at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific.
We are back live at Daytona, opening event of the Speed Vision Endurance Racing Grand Slam. Daytona, Sebring, Le Mans, and the Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta, all coming your way live and flag to flag, only here on Speed Vision. There are some of the parts remaining after a remarkable incident involving the Pilbeam Nissan in the Sports Racer Prototype 2 category, driven by Swiss Tony Seiler, sharing with Bruno Lambert of Belgium and Shane Lewis of the United States. If you've been with us for our coverage, Shane took us around the car a little bit earlier to tell us what it's all about. Now it's in pieces all over this racetrack. Alan?
You know, it's fortuitous that this number 16 has had this problem when it had the problem, because with this yellow, look how slowly all the other cars are going around the track, giving them time to repair it. They have repaired it. They're now putting the car back together. So they've stopped that leak, all being well, from the hydraulic fluid that goes into the power steering, which Leipziger's got back aboard. I don't think they've lost more than maybe a lap and a half. Now, remember, they had a 5-lap lead, so if they've lost a lap and a half, 2 laps at the most, that still should give them a 3-lap lead. So they should still be able to join this race and be in the lead.
And perhaps most important of all, put those wet weather tires on. As you can see, it's a very odd rain that's falling. It's almost like snow, getting to look a lot like Christmas around Daytona International Speedway. We'll be right back in just a moment.
What's actually happening? You may see it better because our cameraman's right in the middle. Obviously not too serious because the hood is going back on, and I guess this car's going to fire up. The tyres they've chosen is very lightly cut slicks. We still have some of this drizzle coming down. I think maybe they should have chosen a more cut slick, but the car is just about to fire up. I think just a little problem with the body grip. That's okay now. The big motor, the V8, fires up, and the Corvette goes off, and Dale Jr. is back in the race.
He has had an interesting race thus far when the track is damp, so we'll have to keep an eye on the former 2-time NASCAR Busch Grand National champion, Alan.
You know, that looked to me like a shock absorber remote unit that they were tie wrapping into place. I think possibly that had broken free. The vibrations had cracked its mounting. They just tie wrapped it back in place. Off he went. I think that's all it was, a very simple thing. It'll probably rattle around there for the rest of the race, but it shouldn't do any harm.
It appeared that he went out on intermediate rain tires with just a few grooves in them to wick away whatever water might be on the racetrack. It is still misting down, not quite as heavy as it was when it started about 10 minutes ago, but coming down nonetheless. And as you see, Earnhardt has but one remaining
according to plan, and Sasha Masson was in the car, and suddenly we lost oil pressure.
Now the kind of thing you can fix, although the team was behind the wall for some time, thrashing around.
Well, I think they were more just searching for what the problem was. We had all of our data that said that the motor was history, so we parked it.
We're going to ask Curly to stay with us for just a moment, but Andrew Marriott is standing by with Andy Pilgrim, I believe.
Yes, I certainly am. Andy, they lifted the hood. What was the problem there?
Yeah, we got that last, I just did like a double stint. The start of the second stint, for whatever reason, I was getting gassed in the car. And a lot of carbon monoxide was coming in, and I told them they've got to look at it because it's just dangerous. So they were looking for it. I don't know if they found it yet because I haven't talked to them, but they were looking for a gas leak, an exhaust leak that was causing the exhaust to go inside.
I saw you on the walkie-talkie. Why are you talking to Dale Jr.?
Yeah, I was really just going over the rain line with him. That's all. He hasn't really been out in the rain at all, so, we've just been going over the rain line before he went out last time. Just wanted to reiterate it again. Just the outside and other things like that, just where it's real slick.
Andy Pilgrim is coach. Back to you in the booth.
All right, thanks very much, Andrew. With a Dutch-built 6.9-liter Chevy V8, it makes an amazing noise when it goes by. We are still under a full-course caution, and let me correct myself. This is our 7th full-course caution, not the 8th, as I said earlier. We're working under the hood of that car, currently shown as 2nd in class in the GTS class, and currently in 5th place in the overall.
Well, I mean, every major win I've had here has been a Porsche-powered car, and we had a lot of confidence in this motor. We did a lot of testing with it, and it's just a mystery. We don't really know what happened, and it's something probably very small in the motor. Something broke, and that shut the motor down.
There's an example of the GTS category Porsche 911 GT1, a remarkable car. Very few of them in the world, and we've had 3 of them that started this race. 2 of them, I believe, are still running. What is it about the 911 that just makes it such a classic, so dear to the hearts of Porsche lovers everywhere?
And our basic motor is the same motor that they're running, GT1 motor. So they're running great, but we didn't.
Well, this is a record day for Porsche. 34 examples of the brand in the race, including one that started in the big prototype division. It is now on the truck. We want to thank Hurley Haywood for being with us. The rain falling harder again. Rolex 24 winner Hurley Haywood. Hurley, we've just gone green. Misting conditions. What's that racetrack likely to be like? A lot of these guys on fresh tires.
This is a driver's nightmare because, when I was out in my stint, I had very similar conditions to this, and the track dries in some places and it's wet in others. When you're running a rain tire, you can easily overheat them on the banking because the banking's pretty dry. So it's really a difficult call to try to figure out what kind of tire to run in this kind of stuff. Attainment of rules which affect the overall cost of racing, which I think is important.
Watching a little full contact racing there in the chicane area. Remember, it's a wet track. The traffic is tightly bunched after that restart. 3 wide as they head into NASCAR turn 3.
This is difficult because all those GT cars get packed up, and then those faster cars get behind them, and you really, you got to be really paying attention to get by those guys. Not easy.
There are some faster cars. Off to the left of your screen with the 2 operating headlights is the bright yellow Corvette. I believe that's the number 2 car, currently in the hands of Johnny O'Connell, which is 3rd in the overall running order behind Butch Leitzinger and David Brabham's Ferrari. Let's get down quickly to the pit lane and Guy Hobbs.
You're in the pit for the Marcos Pantera we were talking about earlier, that great engine. It's not an engine problem they have right now. What it is a power steering belt. And they're trying to replace it and get this car back out on the road. While they're doing that work, they took advantage of the downtime and have replaced the pads on all 4 corners. They've just put the tires back on and hoping to get them back out. Unfortunately, though, this stop taking this long has cost them 2nd position in the GTS class. They've just lost that position to who else but Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Welcome back live to Daytona International Speedway and the 39th Rolex 24 at Daytona. I'm Bob Varsha along with Alan DeCadney. You're looking at the number 3 GM Goodwrench factory Corvette C5R. That is currently in the hands of Dale Earnhardt Jr. and he is down on the apron, choosing not to go up on the banking. That is not a good indication.
No, he's got problems, that's for sure.
Nothing physically obvious on the car. We are joined by Hurley Haywood, a 5-time winner of this race. Hurley, do you see anything?
Well, when he came through the bus stop, he really kind of almost fell off the road there. The car took a big hop, so.
Microphone up on the onboard camera. I think the engine is silent. You see his last lap averaging 111 miles an hour. No, he's popped it out of gear.
Yeah, he's just rolling through.
Yeah.
On the wall is
a transmission.
Looks like a new gearbox. So
he could have lost the drive. Maybe the engine's all right and he's got major transmission problems perhaps. That's what he must have radioed in.
Well, that's a driver's first instinct when there's a noise from the engine bay, isn't it, Hurley? Just get the thing out of gear so you don't hurt it.
Yep. He's got it back. At least he's got it back to the pits.
Andrew Marriott is there.
Yes, I certainly am. Well, the crew, of course, they're only allowed, I believe it's 5 men around this car, and 5 men are already working on it. They haven't even lifted it up on the jack yet. They have that transmission unit ready to be fitted. Dale Jr. is sitting there impassively in the car. There's a little bit of smoke coming off the brakes. We expect that. And I guess these guys are going to work pretty soon. And a number of blocks coming out to make sure that the car does not fall off the jack. So this could be quite a long job, I think. I think we'll throw it back to the booth, and then I'll come back with an update.
There is Dale Earnhardt Jr. sitting quietly in the cockpit. Well, down to his right, the transmission is being lowered out of the car and a repair being made. Mechanics working under the machine. Now, just before we went to break, you saw the number 24, Marcos Montara, being pushed behind the wall. So suddenly, the second and third place cars in the GTS category are not running. And the GT cars, led by the number 31 White Lightning car, currently in the hands of Randy Popes, is moving forward. To Andrew Marriott in the pit lane.
Yeah, I've just been talking to the team. They do practice these gearbox changes, the Pratt & Miller boys, and they reckon it takes about 15 minutes. Of course, that's not on a nice, damp, horrible pit lane. 15 minutes, they reckon. The car's been here for 6 minutes. The team did confirm to me that the car had lost all drive, so this new gearbox has to go in. It's still waiting here, so I guess it's going to be about another 10 minutes before they get this car back.
It was all part of it, wasn't it? You can still have a win here, even if your own car broke down.
Yeah, well, I mean, back in, '91 when Bob and myself won, we had a cast of, I think, 5 guys that drove that car. So we had 2 cars. One car went out, and they moved some of the other guys off over to that car. So Mr. Yost was kind enough to allow Bob and myself to drive it some. So we got the win.
I think Grand-Am have made it easier all ways now for drivers to get points, because you have to drive, I think, for at least an hour or something, and you still get the points. That was the plan, wasn't it?
Well, and the environment is very friendly here, because if you do have a problem out on the racetrack, they'll drag you back into the pits as long as your car is accessible. So unlike the Le Mans rules, which if you break down on the outside of the pits, it's almost impossible to get back. You can't have anybody bring you any spare parts, and you can't have any outside help. You have to do it all yourself.
On board with Mike Fitzgerald in the number 31 White Lightning Porsche, working heavy traffic, but currently in the number 4 spot, although he is 23 laps by my reckoning behind the race leader, Butch Leitzinger. Onto the backstretch he goes. The super stretch here at Daytona International Speedway, headed for the heavy braking area for the chicane. We'll take a break and return with more live from Daytona. So 46 cars took the green flag at the 1991 running of the Rolex 24, in which the names Andretti, Wallach, and Haywood would be at the forefront throughout the entire 2-day event. Harry Lyondike took the lead from pole sitter Bob Wallach by weaving his Nissan through the traffic early on in the race. About 2 hours into the event, the skies opened up, catching everyone on slick tires. Calvin Fish in one of the Mazda GTO cars went head-on into the 4th turn wall. He was uninjured. Mario Andretti was forced to the tri-oval grass. broke an upright in the process and went to the pits for over a half an hour. The race's only other serious crash eliminated the Unser family's Porsche. Robbie was behind the wheel when the accident occurred. Overheating problems plagued the drivers throughout the night, forcing many to withdraw from the race before daybreak. By that time, the Andrettis had worked themselves from being 18 laps down to the race lead. But when Mario came in for a routine pit stop to hand over the driving chores to son Jeff, the clutch failed on the car, and it eventually finished fifth. That fateful pit stop for the Andrettis allowed the number 7 Yost Porsche, co-driven by Frank Jelensky, Henri Pescarolo, and John Winter, along with Bob Wallach and Daytona legend Hurley Haywood, to cruise to the easy win. It was the 4th Daytona win for Wallach and a record-setting 5th for Haywood. Well, there you have it. And as I mentioned, Hurley Haywood is with us as we watch the work continuing on Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s Corvette. Bring back memories, Hurley?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at that, it's like that race was yesterday. I remember the rain. I remember having a fantastic race with the Andrettis in the rain. I mean, that was a great race.
Only 42 cars started that race in the heart of the GTP era, what was then called IMSA, the International Motorsports Association. 80 cars started today's race. About 51 of them are still circuit types running up front. I'll tell you more when we return to Daytona. Hart Jr. sits behind the control. Now they've got a half shaft out on the pit wall, Alan de Cadenet.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, it's a full-blooded drive shaft, so that's got the constant velocity couplings at either end. There could well be a problem.
David Braben's just climbed out of the car. His ears are still ringing. David Hatton, a double stint on Ferrari's just going to leave. Let that go. Spins the wheels out of here. Glorious out of the V12 engine. David, how was your double stint there?
No, it was pretty good. I mean, we were able to catch up on a few laps, which was very handy. The car's running pretty well, actually. I'm really pleased with it. So, you know, we just have to keep it going.
What did Alan say to you about the dramas he had before your stint? Alan, of course, had the wheel fall off and everything.
Well, there was no real drama. I mean, Alan spun on cold tyres, and there wasn't a drama. He was fairly happy with the car. When I got in, it was, I mean, you know, I was going fairly quickly, and you know, just really pleased the way it's going.
Any comparison with driving the Paynos to this Ferrari?
Well, all I know is I'm getting more and more used to this thing, and you know, I mean, the Ferrari's a very easy car to drive, and I just have to keep learning and go a bit faster, a bit faster.
So the strategy now is to keep pushing to try and get that lead back.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we just got to push as hard as we can, and obviously we've got to look after the equipment, because it just seems to be between us two at the moment. And, you know, they've had a few problems, we've had a few problems, and I think it's going to be like that all the way through the end of the race.
What's the racetrack condition like? Does it keep raining a little bit and then drying and then raining?
The track condition was pretty good. The team were telling me it was raining a little bit out here, but you didn't really notice it out on the track, and you can still push pretty hard.
David, thanks. Take a well-earned rest.
Amazing how much he looks and sounds like his father, Sir Jack.
Yeah, that's right. I tell you what, though, he's a real man's racing driver, that guy. He'll drive anything. I mean, he jumps out of one car into another. Paynos, Ferraris, he just loves to drive.
Question about it. Now, here is the second-place car in GT. This is Hans Stuck in that amazing V8 BMW M3, a 5-liter V8, essentially the M5 model engine in this car. Currently in the hands of Hans Stuck, it is nearly a lap behind the leading car in the class, that being Mike Fitzgerald in the number 31 White Lightning Racing Porsche 911. And they are 4th and 5th in the overall.
It's a lovely car, you know. I had a really close look at that. It's beautifully built. Lots of little carbon fiber bits in here and there. They've been quite clever, because as we heard from Hans Stuck earlier in the day, this is really a basic road-going engine that they've merely adopted for racing. It's by no means a full house racing lump, so it's more than likely going to go the distance. And the car looks great, sounds great. I think we're going to see this one at the finish.
As you see, Dale Earnhardt Jr. has finally left the pit lane, currently showed in 15th. And 3rd in the GTS category car, and behind it is its sister car, the number 20, which, as I mentioned earlier, is currently in 6th place. Butch Leitzinger putting a lap on Chris Neifel in the number 2 Chevy Corvette C5R. Down to Guy Hobbs in the pit lane.
Well, just an update on the stop for the 16 car. It was, in fact, very routine as they just changed all 4 tyres, added fuel, cleaned up the air intake, and changed drivers. Andy Wallace getting in. Of course, they did lose a lap in that session to the very fast number 12 Ferrari. The reason being, remember, Butch had the leaking power steering fluid coming onto the pedals, so he wasn't able to really race it at 100%. He tells me now it's stopped leaking, so maybe we'll see some quick times coming back from Andy Wallace.
Thanks for the update, Guy. It is Andy Wallace, who has had an amazing history in endurance racing. Won Le Mans at the first attempt, won Daytona at the second attempt. He won Sebring within his first 3 shots at it, I would guess, and then won the inaugural running of the 10-hour Petit Le Mans Road Atlanta. As our colleague David Hobbs likes to say, Andy Wallace falls out of bed and somebody hands him a trophy.
Yeah, he's a magic man, actually, Wallace.
Welcome back live to the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and we've got a curious incident in the pit lane. That's the number 4, Lola Ford. Somehow spun in the pit lane and was moving in the wrong direction before spinning around again. This is the number 4 being shared by Scott Schubert, Duncan Dayton, John Burton, and Rick Sutherland. Now it makes its way up the pit lane in the proper direction.
No, he's exiting. He's exiting the pit lane, isn't he? Look, that's John Burton driving. Now, he's very experienced. I think he's got a bit of a transmission problem because he seemed to have a bit of a jerky start there. It's either the clutch or the gearbox that's giving him trouble, I think.
He's about to make his way onto the track.
He was on his way out when he obviously lost it. Maybe you see he was on the cold tires. He gassed it a bit too much. Did a quick 90 degrees. Didn't hit the wall. Phew, that was lucky. They pushed him backwards.
He's going fairly gingerly right now. If he has a problem in his pit lane, his pit stall is back at the head of the pit lane. He would have to go around the racetrack to get back to his pit stall.
He may be doing.
It's Eric Van de Poel from Belgium trying to unlap himself and bring his team within 3 laps of the overall race lead. We approach, in fact, pass the halfway point in this race. It is about 3 minutes after 1 in the morning Eastern Time. Hope you're enjoying us. Live flag-to-flag coverage of the Rolex 24 at Daytona, beginning the endurance racing Grand Slam of Daytona, Sebring, Le Mans, and Road Atlanta here on Speed Vision. And Van de Poel makes the pass.
He let him go, you see, Bob, I think, because he knows that that Ferrari is actually 6 miles an hour quicker in a straight line than the Riley and Scott. So rather than hold him up or mess around at this stage, they can let him go, and they've still got enough lead to keep a nice buffer between him and the number 2 car.
We talked earlier in the race about the fact that both the Ferrari and the Riley and Scott Ford technology is very well sorted. Both of these combinations have been around for 5 or 6 years now and have reached the acme of their development. And so to keep the cars competitive, officials play with things like the restrictor inlets that allow air into the engine. Of course, air-fuel mixture in the engine is what makes horsepower and ultimately speed.
That number 16's actually had a new chassis since its earlier days, and the other one was getting a bit flexible. This chassis is a lot stiffer, but Weaver and Wallace and Leipzig have all said to me it's like really driving a big old comfortable drawing room armchair. And they know that car so well. It's kind of strapping on an old mate, and it just feels so...
On the number 2 car, that would mean Chris Neifeld got out, and the driver getting in should be Frank Frion of France, who makes his home in the United States here in the booth. Your thoughts thus far, Alan?
Well, this race has really been quite full of surprises, which is really what I expected, and been some quite sort of unpleasant-looking cars smoting the wall and that kind of thing, the pill beam, for instance, but no one's been hurt, thank God. They've managed to clean up all the damage nice and quickly. The race is really, as we said, halfway through. It's running very smoothly indeed for the number 16, Riley and Scott, the Dyson car. That's all gone according to plan, and they cleaned up all the mess, and everything's running very nicely. So really, it's quite textbook so far.
We have had rain falling intermittently throughout the event. As Alan mentioned, we have also had some heavy crashes, and one of those is featured in our highlights of the 12th hour of this race. So let's take you back. It began with an amazing crash for Tony Seiler of Switzerland, whose Philbin Sports Racer Prototype 2 car shed all of its bodywork. He waved frantically at the oncoming traffic. Fortunately, no one struck him, but it brought out our 7th caution flag of the day. And when it did, the race-leading number 16 Dyson Racing Riley and Scott pitted to clean up some power steering fluid that was getting on Butch Leitzinger's feet. The number 3 Corvette came in, and off came the engine hood, a sign of things to come. The number 2 sister car, which was working its way up into the top 3 in the overall, a routine stop. Now, when the race restarted, Butch Leitzinger in the number 16 took the lead. But that number 3 Corvette in the hands of Dale Earnhardt Jr. coasted in with no drive. The team did an incredibly quick, complete transmission change, only to find out the problem was actually a half shaft. Meanwhile, down the pit lane with the Ferrari pitting, Eric Van de Poel climbed in for David Brabham. After a 31-minute stop, young Mr. Earnhardt was finally on his way. Now you are on board with the Corvette making its way along. This is the number 2 car. Chris Neifel just climbed out of it, and he is standing by with Andrew Marriott.
Yeah, Chris, how was your session then?
That was great. I was just in the car a little bit over the last 2.5 hours, and all systems are going. Car number 2, really excellent.
Now, the other car you probably heard broke a drive shaft. No transmission worries with you?
No, I mean, you know, literally every input, all the shifts, every time you touch the throttle, it's just like having an egg under your foot. Be real gentle with it, take care of the car.
Is the car better than it was last year? Has progress been made?
I'm sorry, you have to say it again.
Is the car better than it was last year?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the team is better than it was last year, not just the car. We're all better.
Well, Chris, you don't need to win. You've already got the watch, look.
I want another one.
Well done. Thanks very much, Chris Neifel.
And thank you, Andrew Marriott. Now, up here in the booth, we've been interactive since before this race began. While the action continues in the pit lane, it's also continuing on the internet. Up here in the booth, our Kenny Martin has been monitoring your email messages. Just get on speedvision.com if you'd like to get in touch with us. We'll be reading some of those emails. In fact, I have a couple in my hands right now. We'll try to answer all of them as best we possibly can. And if you'd like to see your question answered on the air, as you see it is now across the bottom of your screen, just dial up our eSlam speed line. You can also do that from speedvision.com. Now, an answer to an email from Tim in Tucson, Arizona, who is physically challenged, cannot use his legs. He uses hand controls to drive his street car, and he says he's a huge race fan, and he would like to know if there have ever been hand control systems developed for race cars. And I think you and I both know the answer to that, Alan.
The answer is very much yes, especially when you consider, let's say, Clay Regazzoni, who had that ghastly accident at Long Beach when he piled his Formula One car into the concrete block, lost the use of both his legs. Well, he's had cars adapted for driving on the road, and Clay, of course, being the great racer he is, had his racing cars adapted as well. So the answer to the question is yes.
Now, one of the many emails we've got questions why we're not seeing the Orica Vipers that won this race so dominantly a year ago. Well, the answer is the Orica team, which is a French-based operation, has been reassigned by Daimler Chrysler to develop a prototype car. So those Vipers are no longer in circulation. Now, there were 2 privately entered machines in this race from Chamberlain Engineering in England. They are both out of the race at this point. Al Suttle from Varina, Virginia wants to know what exactly is a Judd engine. There are a couple of V10 Judds powering cars in this race. A Judd is a development from John Judd and his engineering shops in England. He has developed engines, that is, for Formula One and open-wheel competition here in the United States. And the Judd engine being used in this race is truly a descendant of that V10 Formula One engine.
That's correct. It started out originally as a 3.5-liter engine for that Formula One, and he's taken it and increased the capacity to 4 liters, whereas it used to rev to anything up to 15,000, 16,000 revs. It's now held well back to about 12, 13, 14, maybe 1,000 at max. So it's 4 liters, and of course with the restrictors on, horsepower is also throttled down. But I mean, you could get something like 700, 800 horsepower if you had full air gain.
Daytona, we are proud of every single one of them. But The good news is for them it's just the beginning, because of course we've got the 12 hours of Sebring coming here from across the world of racing, across the world generally, who have come here to Daytona to race the Rolex. All due respect to that other series that bears the name, this is truly an international race of champions. There's a look at Buddy's resume. Like so many other drivers, here's the number 4. This is the Lola Ford having an overheating problem.
Yeah, that's the car driven by John Burton and Duncan Dayton, who had the problems with his Lola in the historic race.
Slim rear wing. These are the smallest end plates I think I've seen on any of these Lolas or Riley and Scotts. Andrew Marriott is there looking on.
Andrew Marriott is looking at a lot of steam coming out. John Burton sitting in the cockpit. I can't quite see exactly what the problem is, to be honest. The steam's coming out of the side radiator here. I thought at first it was punctured, but it doesn't seem to be. They are, they're also putting oil into the engine, so some problems down here with this purple, blue and yellow number 4, the Philip Brighton Motorsport car. John Burton is staying at the wheel. The rear bodywork is going back on, and I guess the car is going to go back into the race very soon. So that's the situation down here. There's a lot of water, there's a lot of steam, but the Lola is now accelerating back into the race. And let's hope this time he doesn't spin it in the pit lane.
Yes, indeed. That car prepared by Phil Creighton Motorsports in the Atlanta area. I have to say, the steam coming out the back is not a good sign.
Yeah, I think he hasn't done a head gasket or something. At least his slicks will be warm, so no excuse for turning it around this time.
It would be a major repair. You can repair just about everything on these cars, but you cannot change the chassis, and you cannot change the engine block or crankshaft. Just about everything else, of course, can be bolted on.
Incidentally, Buddy Lazier's Riley and Scott, those Judd engines we were talking about earlier, Judd doesn't like to sell you those engines. He prefers to lease you the engines on a deal, but he will actually sell you one. They're 120-odd thousand pounds a throw, which is something like 180,000 bucks at current exchanges. So that's what it costs to buy one outright.
Leading in class, although the BMW number 54 is getting a little closer.
Yeah, the BMW's been on our tail all day. I think here we are 12 hours later, and we're about 30 seconds apart. So it's been a tough battle between the two teams, but the Peterson White Lightning team's been doing a great job. The pit stops have been on the money, and the car's good. So,
how are the driving conditions? Do we keep getting this off and on rain? It's just started again. Is it making it really tough to drive out there?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing you, but the weather. The last time I was in the car was the rain stint earlier today, and it was ridiculous out there. I mean, it was a downpour, and this isn't quite as bad, but it looks like it might be headed that way. I hope not.
I hope not. Now, you are one of only 2 Americans to have won the Porsche Cup. Bryce Cobb was the one guy to do it before you. That's going to be pretty special to do that.
Yeah, that was a really neat experience. I went over to Germany, and Porsche put on a really nice banquet over there, and I really enjoyed myself, and it's really an honor to have won it.
Can you keep this Porsche out in front today?
I hope so. It's going to be tough.
We'll keep a close eye on that battle between you and the 54 car. And I'm just reminded that there are in fact 3 Americans have won it, Thorpe Wagner being third. All right, good luck, Mike.
All right, thank you very much, Guy. As you see, the 31 White Lightning 911 continuing on its way. Meanwhile, up on the banking now is the number 16 of race leader Andy Wallace.
Yes, look at that car. It's just running like clockwork. I mean, that's all they have to do is bring it in the pits, put tires on it, fuel it, check the oil, change the drivers, out it goes. And the thing is just really, really running to plan. This is a very, very well lubricated. Now, here's a really lovely bit of kit that I found at the Grand Am Milestone show. This is the 1979 Porsche 935 that Peter Gregg used to win his 5th IMSA Camel GT Championship. Do you know, during that year, he actually had 8 on-the-trot pole positions, and he won 8 of the races. I think that's probably a record. This is a really beautifully restored car, and it's got lots of little Peter Gregg touches to it, like this black watch tartan seat that he loved, fits me like a glove, and this cutout of the solid billet shifter here. That is the turbo knob. Now, you twiddle that knob, close down the wastegate, and Peter could get, if he wanted, 700 horsepower from the twin, the turbocharged 3-litre engine. You know, it's a great shame they don't want someone to race this car, because it not just fitted Peter very well, it fits me very well too, but I guess it's just going to remain on show.
Ah, yes, Alan DeCatney knows how to find tasty race cars anywhere on the planet. The rain falling seriously now, and that could change things. We'll be back live in a moment. Has turned into what a seriously self-important feeling meteorologist would call a precipitation incident. We'll just say it is raining hard once again here at Daytona as you watch the race leader, Andy Wallace, cut his racing teeth in England, so of course he is used to running what they call summer weather in England, which is a down 4. Past the midnight hour for the Corvette team and the rest of us here at the 39th Rolex 24. Folks are staying loose and eating regularly. Sandy Hing, a look behind the scenes.
Die-hard race fans, the ones that are up after midnight, we're feeling skanky. It's cold, it's wet, we're hungry, but you're watching. It's after midnight, so this one's for you.
Number 44, Avic Motorsports Corvette.
The fires are burning hot in the infield, but you've got to be very careful. Be very, very quiet, because this is when some race fans are sleeping, like Stacy from Columbia, South Carolina. They road tripped all the way up here. Hey, she fell asleep before they got done with this, the pork tenderloin. Well, some fans found another way to relax, get out of the rain. Some Corvette fans we found down here in this tent. Hey guys, Corvette fans.
Yeah, they're the best.
What do you like about the race?
They're the best and number one.
Number one. What do you think, Connor?
Well, if I didn't like them, I'd be nuts.
You'd be nuts? Would you be sleeping and not watching?
I would. I'd be watching I'd be sleeping if they weren't on the track, that's for sure.
Oh, I got that right. How about you, Josh?
Dylan Harsh is the best.
Don't tell the Corvette team they do have some competition. Andy and I are just hanging out up here watching. This is your first endurance event. What do you think?
It's been a lot of fun. A little cold, but a couple beverages take care of that usually.
You're not sleeping yet?
No, no way. Not for a bunch of hours yet.
You gonna do this again?
You bet. I'll be at Sebring.
Keep those fires burning bright, fans.
It's all a part of the show here at the Rolex. Come back here in a couple of weeks for the Daytona 500 and see if you can still get that perch. Now there you see the rain still falling, not as hard as it was just a few minutes ago. It has cooled off, but only slightly, which I guess indicates to us that there isn't a cold front. Stand and wait. Of course, Willie Mays once said, no, it was Hank Aaron who said, why stand when you can sit? Why sit when you can lie down? And if you have spent 12 hours of racing, working on a pit crew, and of course before that, session after session, honing your car for the Rolex 24 at Daytona, you'd grab a cat nap when you could. As first place, second place, and third place to a set of GT cars. Became the first all GT podium in Rolex history. So anything can happen in the second half of this race. Now down in the pit lane, this is the Spencer Motorsports number 62 Mazda Kudzu in the Sports Racer Prototype 2 class. Obviously having some overheating problems there. While Andy Wallace works the infield through the chicane. That was Rich Grubb sitting behind the wheel of the number 62 car. He worked for many years for Jim Downing, who manufactures the Kudzu chassis as well as the Hans head and neck racer. Comes the race leader. 65-mile-an-hour pit lane speed limit through the weekend. World to have won all 4 of the Grand Slam events. Here's more on Andy Wallace's success. Winning any 24-hour race takes both a good set of drivers and a great team. In 1988, Andy Wallace was a part of the Walkinshaw Racing Jaguar squad at Le Mans, and he, along with co-drivers Jan Lammers and Johnny Dumfries, led a Jag parade to the finish. It was the first Le Mans win for Jaguar since the 1950s, and a victory for Wallace in his Le Mans debut. In 1990, Wallace found success at the Rolex 24 at Daytona, again in a Walkinshaw Jaguar. In his second appearance at the Twice Around the Clock Classic, he won, again with Jan Lammers and co-driver Davy Jones. He would go on to win at Daytona twice more in 1997 and 99, both times as a member of Dyson Racing. He has also won twice at Sebring, Florida in 1992 and 93, driving a Toyota as a member of Dan Gurney's All-American Racers. The final victory of his Grand Slam came with the Panos team at the 99 Petit Le Mans when a rival spun out of the lead in the closing laps. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And Andy Wallace would no doubt be the first to tell you that luck plays a big role. In his home in Raleigh, North Carolina, he gave up a lap to his nearest rival, Eric Van de Poel, in the Ferrari, but he has gained that lap back. Currently enjoys, as I mentioned, a 4-lap lead. Wallace has led 275 of 377 laps as a part of that Dyson Racing. Her flame out on the number 4, Lola Ford. Now he's got cars pursuing him in that smoke screen.
That's steam, Bob, so I would think that's definitely a big old head gasket job where he's dropped a valve which has punched through the combustion chamber.
Now remember earlier that car was sitting in the pits overheating badly and they sent it back out.
Yeah, he's left a real smoke screen now for everybody else, of course. But he wants to try to struggle back to the pits and keep going, but I've got the feeling this is likely to be terminal.
He is just at the farthest point from the pits, over in the west hairpin. Not much hope of making it the 1.5 to 2 miles from that point to get back to the pit lane. Look at the mosquito killer he has laid down in the Rodriguez curve, which is where the problem began.
Yeah, I think his work's over for the day.
It was a tough break for that team. Scott Shute.
A long, old, hard session for you there.
Well, I didn't hear what he said, but the car's running fine. It's got a little misfire. Had it for a couple of hours, and it's getting a little bit worse, so we're trying to take care of it. It's hard to compete against the Porsches. They seem to have such straightaway speed on us that I have to drive like crazy through the infield to try to catch up on them. But since we've kept it in one piece, it looks like we're moving up, and we're not even halfway.
How's it feel, Bill, not to be driving a sports prototype out there? You've had 2 years in that wonderful BMW LMP car.
Well, you look in the mirrors a lot more than you used to, I'll tell you that. I mean, you got to keep your eyes open. I'm trying to be respectful of the guys I used to race against. I miss the sound of the V12 behind me, and sometimes when you step on this gas pedal, it doesn't quite do as much as when you step on the other gas pedal.
What's the plan for the rest of the season?
Well, Tom Milner, I'm going to run with him in the 2 factory BMWs that are being made, the real trick ones. Schnitzer's also going to bring 2 over for J.J. Leto, Jon Muller, Dirk Muller, and Ekblom. So we'll have a real good battle between all of us.
We'll see you in Sebring.
All right.
Thanks very much. Bill Auberlen spent some time as a BMW factory driver, part of a very strong operation. And as you heard him say, there will be more of those V8 BMW M-Series cars running in North American sports car racing, so be sure to turn out and watch them. An MLS champion and former Indy 500 winner is climbing out of the Robinson Racing, Riley and Scott Judd, to be replaced, it would appear, by Jack Baldwin. Put the car on the front row, down to Andrew Marriott.
Yes, I always confirm Jack Baldwin is just being strapped into the car here by Buddy Lazier. The car has taken 4 new slick tyres. Everybody's sticking on these slicks, although we've still got this drizzle. And various bottles and things have been thrown around and replenished in the cockpit of this car. And it's taken a little bit of time here, but I think they'll be away in short order, and then we can get a few words in with Buddy Lazier. But back to you.
How was that session for you? Hard work out there, eh?
Yeah, hard work. It's intermittent rain, you know, it's half rain, half dry, but our car's really awesome. We had a couple technical problems earlier. Other than that, I think we'd be real strong, but the car's running really good. It's a real strong platform, so we'll have to see how it goes.
I gather from the guys in the booth you were turning some of the fastest laps of anyone out there.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I just did a triple stint, so I'm pretty tired, but you
know, I don't know what to tell you. The car is just awesome, and that makes a big difference. So I'd like to say hi to my my IRL team in Indianapolis. I know they're watching. I'll see those guys soon.
Season's coming up. You're looking forward to a new IRL season?
I really am. I think our Coors Light Delta Faucet Delara is going to run good. So
you got to beat Team Penske in the first race. You have to beat Team Penske in the first race.
Yeah, they're a tough team, but Himmelgard Racing is up to the challenge. They're a real good team.
Thanks very much, buddy.
Thanks indeed. In fact, when he won the IRNLS championship last year, Buddy said, next year we're going for the perfect season, and that would be defending the championship and winning the Indianapolis 500. Good luck to him. We'll take a break and return with more live as we approach 2 a.m. Eastern Time.
This is a cost-effective formula. You don't have complete spare back ends.
I was going to say, I don't think they're on the same budget that Audi had last year, which supposedly is about 50 million.
Butch Leitzinger brings the 16 car back in heavy rain. They're going to go for a tire change to Dave Burns.
And Rick, they were all set to go to slicks. I talked to Pat Smith. They had a soft compound of slicks up on the wall. Butch had said, let's go ahead and try it. The track seems ready for it. And about 30, 40 seconds ago, they hit a downpour. They pulled the reins right back out and are going to send Butch out for the second of 2 stints now. Fuel going into the 16-liter as well. And everything otherwise looking very routine. But this race, as always, as long as it is a race full of last-minute changes and decisions. And in this case, it was a pretty obvious one as we hit this downpour.
Butch Leitzinger, no doubt, hoping that the Rain-X works on the helmet visor because it is just pouring. Just in the last 30 seconds as we saw him head to pit road, you heard Dave describe the team's decision to change the tire situation, put different rain tires on the 16. And we'll find out more about the situation with the Ferrari team as well. The 12 car still on pit road, second overall. Meantime, Butch Leitzinger adds to the lead for the Dyson team here at the Rolex 24 at Daytona. At Speed Vision, the car that is second overall, the Ricci Ferrari, still on pit road to Alan DeCadney.
Yes, it's actually got an overheating problem, I think, because they've undone the cooling system and they're pouring like antifreeze coolant in there. He's now putting some, exactly what he's pouring in. So they were cleaning out the backs of the radiators. So I think he's come in saying it's getting too hot and they're trying to investigate what's causing that. And I think, in fact, they're trying to cool the radiators down by throwing water on them, but it's lost coolant somewhere. Huge bucket of water coming over here. Plenty of coolant. It's taking an awful lot of coolant. I think it's you see they're trying to cool it down. I think this is a reasonable problem for them, because if it's lost all this fluid, where's it all gone? It's all boiled away, so this isn't too good, I'm afraid, but hopefully they'll sort it out.
Engine off in the 12. There you see more water about to be poured into the water intake area of that Ferrari motor.
I think what's great what this car has shown here today, though, is that this car still has some life left in it, and there's a few of these things floating around. And it'd be great to see some of these teams resurrect programs with the Ferrari chassis. They got a little bit more horsepower this year, and it's immediately made it competitive. I mean, they've struggled for the last 2 years with lack of straightaway speed, and just a slightly bigger air restrictor. Suddenly this car can be a factor. It'd be great to see it run some more.
As we had mentioned earlier in the
last year, if you remember. Difficulty with this car is that they're known to lose water, these engines, from time to time. And if it's lost too much and got too hot, this could be the beginning of something rather nasty, even terminal. It's taking a lot of water. I've seen at least 2 gallons go in there. And they're flushing water into the backs of the radiator to try and keep it cool. It's obviously getting hot. They know what will happen if it gets too hot. It'll start cooking its joints and it's all over.
And they are third overall, leading GTS and starting to close in on second overall on the board as the Ricci Ferrari continues to have problems. Still down on pit road trying to figure out what the cooling problem is in that motor, as we talked about. The Corvette had a strong season in 2000 in GTS competition, more quickly than many expected. They had success. Avarsha says the momentum for this team started to build last year.
Corvette Racing came out of the blocks quickly last year with an overall runner-up finish here at the Rolex in just the team's second year of racing. The sleek C5Rs continued to nip at the heels of the dominant Vipers until August at Mosport, when the team's first victory appeared to be within their grasp. but it slipped away as a drying track played havoc with the Goodyear rain tires.
Well, he could use the front bumper. Well, look how close they're getting. Here they come, final corner, the right-hand lap car there. Here comes Pilgrim drawing up onto the back bumper. Vedlinger is going to hold on and score the victory for Dodge.
The team would have to wait until the next round under a hot Texas sun.
You know, it was closer to being, there was 112, I think, ambient. Very, very difficult physically to do that event. Toughest thing I've ever done.
Viper has won 12 straight American Le Mans Series races. 13 is their unlucky number. Bellows and Pilgrim score the win in GTS in the Grand Prix of the Petit Le Mans.
There's the leaders right there.
3 laps to go.
Oh, look at that.
Look at the Viper. Blocks him. Oh, the brake zone. The brake zone for turn 1. Pilgrim goes down the inside. The Viper's off.
He's going to have a... Oh, good save so far.
He tried to stop the move by the Corvette, and he wasn't strong enough. And now the boys can celebrate. And don't tell me this won't be a champagne celebration. Chevrolet Corvette come home to win the first endurance race of the year. They beat the Viper. What a fight that was.
It was just a great win, and to do it against the Viper team at the pinnacle of their abilities at that point with the best drivers, the best everything.
They've gotten the problem with the 20 car, the input shaft fixed. Nicholas Johnson in that car. It's out of the garage area, back on the racetrack running 29th and at full speed once again. The rain falling very heavily right now. The teams have all stopped and changing to full-on rain tires because, as you can see, our camera's getting quite wet. Our folks out in the elements getting quite wet. We're sitting by with a nice hot cup of coffee. We invite you to do the same for the next several hours. We've got a lot more racing action to come your way. Well, just a few moments ago, the Risi crew moving that car to the garage for more repairs. Alan DeCante, what's the situation now?
Well, rather as we thought. I'm afraid that all that water that got blown out of the car had to go somewhere, and they replaced it all. And what I noticed is as they topped up the water pot, they started the engine, and a whole load of bubbles ensued and water blew out the top. Well, we all know in a road-going car that's head gasket problem. The cylinders were pressurizing the water system, and I'm afraid that is pretty terminal. They started the engine. As he revved it up to try to leave the pits, a whole load of smoke came flying out of the left-hand bank of cylinders, oil smoke, and there was a lot of steam coming out of the overflow from the water system. So they told him to switch it off. They've taken the car behind the wall, and I would think it's a pound to a penny. That is terminal. I'm afraid we are unlikely to see number 12 back in the race. Great shame.
Meantime, the Corvette, the 3 car. This is the car that Dale Earnhardt and Dale Earnhardt Jr. have been sharing with Andy Pilgrim. They're on pit road for a tire change, and they continue to climb the charts. They're up to 7th overall right now. Andy Pilgrim at the controls, staying in the car in this shift. Second in GTS to their team car, the 2. With Johnny O'Connell working through the rain. They're going to open the passenger side door and go in and perhaps add a little oil to the oil tank back there.
We're just changing, that's the driver fluid bottle. They actually have a little canister there so the drivers can take a nice refreshing drink every now and again. So I think that's what they're putting in there.
Very patient with that team. The cars continue to get quicker and quicker and quicker. And we're taking a look at the scoring charts right now. Unofficially, they're about 3 laps out of 6th overall. The 3 GT cars remain 4th, 5th, and 6th overall. This machine's 7th overall, 2nd in GTS. The windshield's pretty dirty there at the moment.
And I tell you, that's one thing, I don't care who you drive with here, whether it's Jack Roush or go to the Oldsmobile team, and you see the vet team there, you cannot convince the team manager and all the boys at the shop that when it rains, I'd like to see out both sides of the windshield. I remember driving at Sebring once, and the windshield wiper wouldn't touch the screen at speed. And there was no blower on the inside, and they actually had this inside windshield wiper, which was driver's side only, so through the right-hand corners you couldn't see the apex. And I'm driving around, and the windshield wiper on the inside drops off, jams the steering wheel. So I had to grab it, like throw it out of the car, and I mean, within 30 seconds, you couldn't see anything. And I come back to the pits, and they said, well, it's going to take us a while to fix it. Just go out there and drive. I said, I'll kill someone going down pit lane, let alone myself on the racetrack.
The challenges of endurance racing. Certainly they're unique in the sport as we watch one of the Corvettes work around the outside of the Rodriguez turn. That's Andy Pilgrim in the 3 after getting that service work done. They're back on the racetrack. Raining hard at the moment. This may be the heaviest rain we've seen of now 4 stretches of rain since the green flag fell at 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon Eastern time. Here's one of the Porsche GTS cars, the 01.
They're third right now in GTS and 8th overall. One of the basic machines as they work into the infield road course. Let's get an update on the situation downstairs to Dave Burns. And we'll talk to Dave in just a moment as we watch the 01 continuing to circulate the infield part of the road course. GT cars, of course, a big part of the field here. Let's find out more from Dave Burns. And some audio problems evidently for Dave, and we'll try to talk with Dave and get an update on the situation in a couple of moments there as we watch the crews scrambling around. Calvin, as we watch the 16 car continuing to lead here, Butch Leitzinger at the controls. They continue to add to their advantage right now. What's going through the Dyson crew's mind at this point? They came so close a year ago, had a failure late in the going, which gave the race to the Oracle Vipers, and now they find themselves in a similar situation.
Well, I think with that Ferrari going behind the wall, the whole ball game changes right now. I'm sure that Pat Smith and the crew are aware of this problem with the Ferrari, and they have a massive lead over the next SRP car once you take that number 12 car out of the equation, so they can really back off considerably and just try and take care of this car. But that doesn't always mean that it's going to still work for 24 hours. You can see there, Dave Burns, we have our technical problem within a 24-hour race, and something silly can hit them as well.
Let's get an update on the situation in Prototype 2. This has been a battle between these two Archangel team cars. Alan,
rear corners, put 2 new drive shafts on, complete with the constant velocity joints. Somehow try and keep the water out of the works while they get everything greased up and put back together. But this car is now going back together. This is in the true tradition of Daytona racing, where you do not give up. You continue to work on your car until it's absolutely impossible not to. And these guys will get this car back together, and it will get back on the track. I estimate, looking at it, the way they're going, probably another 10 to 15 minutes, this thing will be back together and out there.
They are still the leaders in Prototype 2. Their team car, the 21 car, 3 laps behind now. So if it is another 10 minutes or so, you can count on the 21 car taking over the lead in Prototype 2. The team cars 17th and 18th overall in Sports Racer Prototype 2. And there's the 21 on the racetrack, making laps, gaining ground, closing back in to try to take over the class lead in SRP2, working through the infield road course. There you get an idea of just how steamy and misty it is right now with the heavy rain that we're seeing. Let's try to get things straightened out. Dave Burns back in the garage area. Dave, got a microphone that's hooked up properly at this point.
Well, you know, that did give Jim Holtum and me a chance to catch up on localities. He's from Stittsville, Ontario, which is near Nepean, Ontario, which is where my sister is from, but that's immaterial. That's near Ottawa. Jim is driving with Larry Schumacher, who's in the 01 right now. And Jim, I understand you guys are going to go to single stints, probably rotate you and Larry out for experience sake in the rain.
Yeah, and we're getting a little tired too. We're too old to be doing this stuff.
I know Larry's too old, but now you're not really chasing the vets. You and I were chatting about that. Tell me about your strategy right now.
We're just running our race. You know, there's still a lot of race left here. There's another 8 hours, and you know, anything can happen. We're just running our race, trying to keep it clean, avoiding contact, just doing our thing.
Have you talked about, if you get within reach in the final hours, how you're going to race them?
Well, we're going to race hard. That's why we came here. We came here to race hard. I think you have to recognize that the factory Corvettes are, you know, they're fine automobiles, and they've got some pretty darn good drivers in those cars, drivers that I respect very much.